Hola, hola, mi gente. Welcome to another episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. Now, let me tell you why I'm excited. I'm excited. You guys know I'm always excited about my guests, or else I wouldn't have them on the podcast. But I, first of all, found our next guest on TikTok. And if you haven't, you should. She's hilarious. I love it. But this is her first podcast. And I always love having people who've never been on a podcast because we have such an amazing community. You guys are always so unbelievably supportive. So this week we have Lorena. Is it Jusino or Jusino?
Jusino.
Okay, just
Yeah.
making sure. I always like to
Yeah.
make sure. Um, so welcome. How are you, Lorena?
Good. I'm excited and nervous.
Don't be
I,
nervous. Don't be nervous.
I actually have my wine here. My
Good. Yay. I was
cup
about
of
to ask
wine.
you if you had your wine
Yeah.
with you because I never force anybody. I want to make sure people feel very comfortable. In fact, you're from Puerto Rico, you're from Ponce, Puerto Rico. And I actually didn't realize that there are some Puerto Rican wineries. So I'd actually
They're
got,
yeah. They're
yeah,
up and
there's a,
coming. I haven't really I'm ashamed to say I haven't really tried one yet. I don't think so. Yeah.
well,
I
I'm
should.
just gonna have to make a visit and I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to go because I don't know if you realize or if you knew, I actually created the very first directory of Latinate owned wine brands based in the United States.
Ooh.
Technically, I can't talk. Puerto Rico is a territory, and I would love so I need to find all those so I can create
Mm-hmm.
one for like so if people visit or they're there and like go visit family or just go for vacation, they know where to go for some wine. So I'm gonna need to get that. I have actually connected with one of them, and they're like, "Let us know when you want to come." So got to do that.
That's amazing.
Um, like I said, I found you on TikTok, as many people have. And I'm really, really excited because look, I know the value of you have over 236,000 followers. So not meek by any stretch of the imagination. You have a pretty good audience. But what caught my eye, and I always love, people do skits and people do all these things, but I what caught my attention, the first skit that I found, I don't know exactly which one, but it was one of the ones when they're traveling and they think they don't need a passport. And you're acting as like the gate agent. And you're like, yeah, you need a passport. You get the Karen side and the gate agent
Mm-hmm.
side. And I just was laughing so hard because, I travel a lot and I've seen it. And I'm
You
always
have?
like, oh, I've
Yeah.
totally
I've
maybe
just read
that exact
articles
thing.
about it, but I've never witnessed it in person.
Oh my gosh, not those exact things, but I always find you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, why are you going to be so upset? These people cannot do anything for you. They're just following orders. They're just like if it's really bad weather, like just they're not a pilot, they're not out there, they're
Mm-hmm.
not controlling the weather, like calm down, like
Yeah.
cálmate, it's okay. And so yeah, so I've definitely seen that. I've seen my fair share of people getting really crazy. I just put my headset on and
Mm-hmm.
just listen
Just
music, watch something.
sewn out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just zone out because I'm like, ah, yeah, yeah, I can't even deal with. I don't want that energy around me. And then I'm always
Yeah.
like, please don't be on my flight. Please don't be sitting next to me. But before we get into like how you got into all of that, all of the stuff, before we get into that chisme, we always start with the wine. And you
Yes.
already showed me your wine. What do you know what kind of wine you're drinking tonight?
It's 689. It's from Napa.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I actually literally just did a podcast right before this. So I'm drinking the same wine because I have this little
Mm-hmm.
bottle that's it only has two. And I was like, oh, well, that's perfect. It only has two glasses. I need one for each podcast. And it's called
Perfect.
Modern Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's from Bulgaria.
Ooh. I've never
Yeah.
tried a Bulgarian wine.
This well, every at Costco they have these advent calendars, these wine advent calendars. And
Mm-hmm.
there are these wines from all over the world, places you would never expect. And I love that because it really kind of forces you to get out of your
Comfort
comfort
zone.
zone
Yeah.
and or try something that you would have never thought of or very different. I'm very much I love my cabs. I'm a California cab girl. What
Mm-hmm.
wines do you normally drink?
I drink this one a lot at home because when I'm at my mom's house right now and she loves this one. So this is what the one I've been drinking lately. I usually order a Pinot or a Cabernet. Depends on if I'm visiting a new country, I've ordered a wine from that country. But I'm not really good with wine. So I try them and I'm like, okay, I like it. I'll keep drinking it.
But that okay, so let me just say that's like perfect that you're
Mhm.
willing to try things because I get people on here that are like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm drinking this wine and it might be like a $5 bottle wine." I don't care what, like I always say, the best
Yeah.
wine is the wine that you like. Everybody has a different palate. Everybody has things that they like and don't like. You don't have to have $100 wine to get something good out of it. So as long as you like
No.
it, that's what matters. And to be
Yeah.
experimental.
And it's all relative because a really expensive bottle here might be €3 in Spain. So it's all the
Exactly.
price is all relative.
Exactly.
And I love $3 Trader Joe's wine
Yes, it's not.
too.
It's still
Yeah.
called $2 Chuck, but it's not $2 anymore. I actually
Oh,
do. I do use that for like cooking wine too, because
yeah.
you just want the flavor. You're burning off the alcohol anyways. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very fortunate that I do get a lot of really amazing wines from these Latineo wineries, and they are so good. But I do like to try different ones. I have a wine bar called Whetstone Wine Bar, a couple
Mm-hmm.
blocks from me, and they always have these very crazy, like the first time I tried a Georgian wine, and I'm talking Georgia,
Ooh.
the country, not the
Yeah.
state, was from there. I've had a wine from Greece from there. I've had like these very, very cool wines. They're very eclectic, and I love how and they're always changing them out. The owner is Filipino and Panamanian.
Ooh, that's a cool mix.
Yes, he's so cool.
Yeah.
His name's Christian. Like, if you come to the area, guys, go to Whetstone Wine Bar. Tell him Jessica from the Wine and Chisme sent you. He'll hook you up because he's amazing. All right.
Yeah.
Salud.
Salud.
There's my
Okay.
there's my
Clink.
sound effect.
Yeah. Clink, clink. This is actually a plastic cup, glass,
Oh, it's
plastic
nice. You
glass.
can't even tell.
Yeah, no.
I actually saw some. There you go. I saw some at um Hobby Lobby because we had to go to Hobby Lobby for something.
Yeah.
And they had some, and I was like, and it was plastic wine glasses. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would have never guessed that. If, I might eventually buy some because I take the podcast on tour. And instead of buying the plastic throwing ones, I'm like, oh, maybe in the future I
Yeah.
could get those and like, bring those.
I'm
So
very
let me,
clumsy. Yeah. So I need the plastic ones. Yeah.
you know what? You do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go ahead and read your bio and then we'll get into all of the chisme. Born in Ponce, Puerto Rico, Lorena moved to New Mexico when she was 2 years old, where she spent her preschool years and then moved back to PR a few weeks before turning 6. She then went to school in, is it Yauco?
Yauco.
Yauco. Okay, that's actually what I was thinking in my head
Yes.
and it came out different.
Which is where I am right now,
Oh, is
actually.
that where you're at?
Yes. Just
Until
20
she
minutes from Ponce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Until she graduated high school, she studied biology for a couple of years at the University of Puerto Rico in my guess. And wait, I just lost my place. Before transferring to the University of Sacred Heart in San Juan to study film production. During that time, she participated in a student exchange program uh, with NYU and spent a semester studying there. That's when she took her first acting class and completely fell in love with it and decided that's what she wanted to do with her life. After she went back to Puerto Rico to finish her degree before moving to New York officially, she graduated college, went on to study for 2 years at the William Esper Studio in Manhattan. I've heard of that. That's like a pretty prestigious
Yeah,
acting
it's
program,
really
right?
small, but there's a few well-known actors that have come out of it. It's a little
Uh,
tiny studio.
yeah, I feel like I've heard of that before. So maybe it's from some well-known actors talking about it before. So that's very cool. And then after she started auditioning, managing, I like how you put managed to book a couple off Broadway short plays, a sketch show, and a short film. During this time, she had multiple part-time jobs to pay the bills. So as you like what you normally hear, right? Waitress, receptionist, coat check attendant, etc. And then obviously COVID happens and you start a TikTok account, as many
Like
of us did.
so many people.
Yeah.
Like 99% of the
Right.
population. Yeah.
For the first few months, she was doing videos using trending sounds until she started doing her own skits and people seemed to like them. So she kept doing more. Like that's where I found you. I didn't find you on trending sounds. I found you from your own skits.
Skits.
Yes. Hey, no. Mama's on mama's doing something. Mama's working.
Is that your dog?
Yeah, I have two. I have a pit bull
Aw.
and a cavapoo.
Aw.
And so they were very quiet the first one. And of course, as soon as I get to the second one, now they're like, Hiro, no playing right now. Lay down, relax, relax.
Maybe they
JP, I
want
need you.
wine. Yeah.
I know, right? JP, I need you to take that part out, please. Or maybe not. Who knows?
Maybe not. No,
This is
just leave
life.
it.
This is life.
Yeah. The dogs are drinking wine too. Yeah.
They need to relax. Maybe I need to give them some wine to relax. Then once life went back to normal, she booked a few more jobs, including some more short films, and continued making TikToks and working other side jobs before being a candy cane greeter at Radio City Music Hall one December, and handing out flyers for Broadway show discounts in Times Square. I feel like I've been to Times Square and you're like you have all those people doing
Yeah,
that.
and
You
everyone's just ignoring you
yes,
in the
yes.
middle of winter, just standing there handing.
Next
Some days
time I need to just take it just because now I feel bad.
they're actually really good discounts.
Are they? And you know what? I
Yeah.
still have not been to a Broadway show.
Oh,
And I keep
they're
saying, "Oh,
so
I want to
good.
go. I want to go." And
Yeah. It's really
I end up
fun.
doing other okay, I'm going to go.
I
I'm going
mean, choose one that you're interested in the plot or the music
to.
because they're all different. It's like
Yeah.
movies. You're gonna like some, you're not gonna like others. Yeah, it all depends on the story
Yes.
and the songs.
I
But I
got to
love
do
them.
it.
Yeah.
And then you got a job making UGC, which stands for user generated ad creator ads, and had the
Yes.
opportunity to be remote and be a full-time content creator. And which you know, obviously doing that, you got to go back to Puerto Rico for a few months, travel, and then you got into the TikTok beta program where you're able to monetize the skits and focus more on getting back into your acting productions. And this is so cool. You were recently in London taking a 6-week acting course at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art before you went to Puerto Rico for the holidays. That is so cool. And
Yes.
we will get to all of these different things. But I always think you're very, very creative. I always admire people that have that type of creativity. I feel like I have all of this stuff in my head and then it never translates the way I want it to when I do that. But I was also somebody who I grew up, you know, me and my sisters and me and my friends and stuff would always be putting on shows and plays and stuff like that. Is that how you were growing up? Were you somebody who was just
Yes.
always drawn to that?
Yes, always with either with my cousins or my neighbors. I had a few neighbors my age, and with my cousins at least, or family friends, all the kids, we used to put on little talent shows and we made our own choreographies in like an hour, and then we forced the all the adults to watch us.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did that too.
every Friday we got together. We got together a lot of Fridays, every birthday every holiday there was a performance.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
One
We
time we
were
formed a band.
did you
Yeah,
ours
it
were so
lasted.
much acting versus dancing. We would do dancing ones.
I never trained as a dancer. I did take a couple of classes, but I don't consider myself that good of, I'm really bad at learning choreography. So we just did really simple dances. I was mostly in the back or in a corner, but I loved it. Um, and yeah, that was our, we put
So
on
what was your
shows.
role when you would do like the skits and stuff? What was your role? Were you like, okay, you're going to be this person, you're going to be this person, I'm going to be this person. What was your role in that?
It depends. If I was the oldest that moment, or not necessarily the oldest, if I was with the kids that always that listened to me, then I was directing. But if there was for example, an older cousin or a friend that had more, I don't know, leadership skills, and everyone just listened to them. So it all depended. But when I was around 11, I got a video camera for Christmas, and that's when I started shooting my own little movies, home videos, and I got forced everyone to be in them. And we recreated novela scenes, and I'm trying to convert them to digital because they're in VHS to get all of those videos because all of them have been begging me to finally convert them so they can watch them because we haven't seen them in years.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
bet you when you finally get that done and converted, you're probably you all will probably just sit there in awe and laughing and oh remember this? I remember
Yeah.
this. We didn't have video like a video recorder, which I get mad at my parents for because I'm like, my parents, my mom, they had tapes like those 8 millimeter cameras from
Yeah.
no sound, but just all and I'm like, you guys had that, but then you didn't do anything for us? How rude. Like, we have no
Yeah.
videos.
There was a period of time where no one took pictures or recorded. I think because there's a big chunk of my childhood where we don't have that many videos, but then at one point people started getting cameras again and started filming more. But yeah, there's some a few years in the 90s, late 90s where I don't think we have videos of that time, at least in
Ugh,
my family. Yeah.
late 90s. I feel so old. I was already graduated high school by the late 90s. So you actually
Yeah.
said you lived in New Mexico for a little bit. What part of New Mexico did you live in?
It was near Clovis. It was an Air Force base because my
Oh,
dad
okay.
was in the Air Force for 4 years. Yeah.
Got it. Actually lived in Albuquerque for a couple of years.
I went there and I know it's beautiful, but I don't remember.
Girl, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I graduated high school there. We moved to Albuquerque 2 weeks before my junior year in high school and
Okay.
moved
So you
back to
graduated from there?
Yes, and then graduated. We moved back to California a week after I graduated high school.
Okay.
So I wasn't even there 2 full years, but I've not been back since. Besides
Wow.
driving through,
Yeah.
I've not been back since. I think I just had such a traumatizing time there because, like I said, we moved. I had my place in school. I was a
Yeah.
cheerleader. I played softball. I was in student government. I was like involved in all these things. And then I go to a city I don't know a single person. I tryouts for cheerleading had obviously already happened, like all these things. So it was kind of it was kind of traumatizing the time that I lived there.
Yeah,
So I
having
think
to
that's why.
start over at a time where you're supposed to be ending that stage,
Mm-hmm.
like spending
Totally.
your last 2 years of high school in a different place. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not fun. But I love hearing that you like that's kind of something that you were always in. But what about when you were going through school? Like, did you like audition for plays? Did you do, or were you like, what, as you kind of grew into yourself, right? Is
Yeah.
that something that you were still interested in, still doing, or were you focused on other things?
So we didn't have school plays in my school. Here in my town, I went to a Catholic school most of the time, and for middle school, I was a Christian Baptist school, and then I went back to my other school. And there wasn't a big arts program. There was a choir, and I was part of the choir for every time I had an opportunity to sing in church, but it was only church songs. And yeah, we the Catholic school, we didn't have plays. Like Like I know in the States, most schools have their yearly plays and you audition and you have the drama clubs. We didn't have any of that in my school. So yeah, the arts in my town wasn't a big thing. There was a place where I did take ballet classes for like a month, but it wasn't that great. And the nearest if you really wanted to be in the arts at that time, you had to go to San Juan or Ponce or Mayagüez, the nearer cities. There wasn't that much too.
Oh man. So how did
Yeah.
you like I'm sure you still had that desire to
Yeah.
create. What would you do during that time?
So the only thing we had was talent shows, but the talent shows were mostly dances, and we weren't, no one was a dancer, so we just did very simple choreographies and presented them at the end of the year. That was it. And at least with my friends, when we were around fifth grade, we loved recreating Bring It On scenes. We really wanted to be cheerleaders. So yeah, we just try to be creative outside of school or outside of we didn't have a drama club or a dance club, so we just did it ourselves, but without
Right.
any learning about any technique or anything. The only theater class I had was one year they did get a theater teacher when I was in my year in high school. That's the only theater class I've had, and we did a short play for the kindergartners. But that was it. And then
I
in
like
my
how it
other
wasn't
school,
for anybody but the kindergartners.
yeah, it was fun. It was like we did like a circus, but no one had skills to be part of the circus, not even juggling or anything. So I don't really remember what we did. Yeah. And
That
then the
is so
other school I
funny.
went to, um, they were very strict when it came to dancing wasn't allowed at all. Only singing in the church. It was a really fun school outside of those rules, but per to we didn't have like a way of expressing ourselves that wasn't singing um the church church songs.
I would imagine
Yeah.
that would kind of be frustrating or feeling
Yeah.
stifled almost because you are somebody who wants to perform, who does these skits for your family and everything, and then you go to school and that's where, like you said, a lot of kids have drama classes and everything, and they get to
Hmm.
hone it and they get to kind of have that outlet and get their first taste of auditioning and their first taste of this, and you didn't really get to have any of that.
Yeah, I had a teacher that did allow us to my homeroom room teacher in seventh grade. She I took the camera one day and we started doing skits, and she always allowed us to do that, but that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those skits never left the classroom. We watched them ourselves. I edited them myself. I don't know how. Yeah.
So isn't it funny what the things you think of, the things that you
Hmm.
remember that you did, and you're like, how did I do that? But we figure it out, right? Like when you want to do
Yeah.
something, you figure it out. But then you graduate and you decide to study biology. What
Yeah.
made you want to study biology? If you had this, because it seems like you've always had this really deep desire to perform.
Yeah. So during high school, since we didn't have any classes, like drama classes or anything, I for when I turned like 15, I stirred away from doing videos because everyone was growing up and that wasn't cool anymore. So everyone had other interests. I was in the volleyball team. I wasn't really good, but still, I was there. And yeah, I kind of like I felt like it wasn't realistic. I thought at that time to perform you needed to have been doing it since you were a kid or taking classes, and I felt I had no talent at that time, and I was trying to be realistic because I did look into college art programs, but then I thought and I there was no one in my family that had pursued the arts. So I didn't have that someone that could guide me or the counselor from school. They always encouraged us to pursue either medicine, law, or engineering. because those are the three careers here in Puerto Rico that are gonna make you money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Growing up, did you have somebody that you kind of looked up to? Because I like when I grew up, there wasn't much Latino representation.
Hmm.
Um, I grew up, in the 80s and 90s. I grew up before, I was already like grown, I guess. The when like Salma Hayek came out and
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Lopez came out, like I wasn't uh I remember when I found out, and I've said this on a previous podcast, like Wonder Woman, Linda Carter was like half Mexican because I loved
Yeah.
Wonder Woman growing up. I was so excited. But even being a light skinned Latina, I still never felt like I was represented because nobody on TV talked like my family. Nobody looked like my family. Because we all know that our community, we're not a monolith. In the same family, you can have
Mm-hmm.
somebody way darker complected and lighter complected and all of the different things in between. And I never felt like we were seen. I never felt like I was seen. Did you ever? Because I know in Puerto Rico you have like you have your local programming as well. But
Yeah.
did you have somebody in Puerto Rico that you were like admired? And then outside of that, in like the greater things, is there anybody that you looked up to growing up and performing?
So Puerto Rico does have its local TV, but the film industry is not that big. And I don't think growing up I had a Puerto Rican movie that I watched. There are some, but I watched them later in life. But we did get all the programming from Mexico, Colombia, and that way I did feel like I didn't feel I'm not seeing any Latino representation because I'm seeing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing Mexico doing its thing, Colombia's doing it that way. I remember my grandparents had a Spanish channel from Spain, so there was also that. I was seeing all of that, and then I also watching everything coming out of Hollywood. So, from my perspective at that time was everyone's doing their own things. I wasn't really aware of the lack of representation in the States yet when I was really young. I just remember never seeing any Puerto Ricans like the ones I knew because there's so many Puerto Ricans that moved there after college or after high school um to have better opportunities, but I've hardly seen Puerto Ricans that moved from the island. The ones I've seen are very stereotypical or they grew up in the States. Yeah, so that's why I've always wanted to see more of. And I've also wanted Puerto Rico to have its own industry, bigger industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was always longing for.
Right. Is there any? I'm trying to think. I think Rosalind Sanchez is from Puerto
Hmm.
Rico. I think she grew up in Puerto Rico. That's the
Yes.
only person I can think of off the top of my head. Like in
Benicio
obviously,
del
like
Toro,
the only
the other one.
but
Yeah.
and then but out that's like acting side. Well, I guess technically Ricky Martin did. He was Menudo first, and then he went into acting. Then he went back. I
Yeah.
remember when he was on General Hospital, and I hated him with
I
his
don't.
long hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, girl. Okay, I grew up with Menudo, right? I grew up when the popular time of Menudo during
Yeah.
that time. And so I was like all about it, loved it. And then, they went, obviously they all age out and they whatever, and you get older, so you would kind of age out of that as well.
Hmm.
Then I remember when he showed up on, like, I remember listening to his music, but I remember seeing him and I would always be like, cut your hair. I remember when it started getting long. And then when he was on General Hospital, it was like long and wavy. And I hated it.
I
So,
remember when he had his long wavy hair.
yes, I
Yeah.
am not, I think just in general, I'm not like, at least for me, then as soon as he cut it, I was like,
Hmm.
there he is.
That's his look.
That's the look. And he hasn't gone
Yeah.
long since. But obviously, but music wise, there's been an impact. But you're right, like
Yeah.
Holly, like acting wise, there's very few. We can only name two.
There's probably more. I'm trying to think
Probably.
if there's another one, but big, big. Yeah. Raul Julia, who may
Oh,
rest in peace.
yeah. And if you
Uh,
guys don't know who that is, I'm sure you do because you're in my audience, but
Gomez,
Gomez Adams from the Adams Family movies.
also very a
Wait, didn't he
well-known
study?
theater
I was
actor.
about to, didn't he study in London as well?
I have to
Why I
check,
would
but
know that random piece of information, I have no idea, but I tend to know random pieces of information. But maybe it's because I
maybe
thought
I
he
don't know. I'm
did
not
very
sure.
traditional. I don't know. I don't know if it was the same
Yeah.
one, but then you decide you're done with that. I'm assuming you're like what was it where you're just like, you know what, biology is not it. I
When I
really
was
want to study
about to,
acting.
yeah, when I was about to start studying for the MCAT, which is the medical school entrance exam, for a year I've already been, this is not really what I want. And I remember always because the school I started in, which is in Mayagüez, it's very intense, academically intense, and it's pre-calculus classes are really hard, and a lot of people flunk. They have to repeat those classes. So first, I was never really good at math. I was good in biology and all of that, but not in math. And you needed to take all those calculus classes to get your degree to go to medical school. So I was really struggling with that. I still love anatomy. I'm still really interested in that, but at one point I realized this might not be the thing for me. And I remember always wishing to be able to take more art classes, and I remember the school had a theater club, but I wasn't able to join because I didn't have time because I was always studying. So I was always wishing, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do this, but I have to study. I wish I could do this, but I have to study. And it was during my third year in college when I I gave up. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
You were studying something that you didn't want to do for 3 years.
No, at first I did wanted that. The first year it was I think I convinced myself that that's what I wanted. So that first year I was like, I love this. I love the school. All my friends were there. So I had a big community there and I loved that. So I think that was I was able to, okay, I just have to get through this. I have to get through these classes because I did love the biology part of it. And I was like, okay, I just have to deal with the hard classes that I don't like to be able to get through this. But as time went on and I started taking more classes, I was like, I really don't like this. I hate this. I just want to take more art classes, history classes, but I didn't have time. So it was a slow process of me realizing that that wasn't what was meant for me.
So when you finally decided, okay, this is done. I'm done. I'm going to go to Sacred Heart
Ye-
in San Juan and
Mm-hmm.
but you have to tell your parents. Guess
Yeah.
what? I'm not doing this anymore and I'm going to study film production. What was that conversation like? Were they supportive or were they like, "Ay, está loca"?
Yeah. Yeah. The the está loca. Yeah. Um So that semester before I transferred, I was taking classes in a smaller campus of the University of Puerto Rico. And my plan was just to keep going back to the Mayagüez campus, which I loved. But then it was a very, oh, sorry, dark few months because I was like, what am I doing? I hated everything. I hated those classes. I was away from my friends. So that I think I needed that to think about what I wanted, that isolation. And it was one day when I was just, I'm not gonna do this anymore. Oh, I once had a conversation with a friend of mine and we were talking about what would you do um if money didn't depend it on it. What would you study if you didn't have to think, oh, I have to get a job, I have to earn this amount of money. And then that's when I say, oh, I will work something related to film. And I think that was one of
Like aha moments.
the aha moments. Yeah. And I think a few months after that was when I decided to transfer. And it was in May when when I decided to transfer. It wasn't like early.
Oh my
It was very last
gosh.
minute. And I started Googling programs in which I knew I could get accepted easier. And at that point, I was afraid to even admit to myself that I liked acting and all of that. So I was like, okay, let me just go behind the cameras. And I applied because that school, the Sacred Heart, which it's Sagrado, is what they call it here. Um, they're really known for their communications program, and their communications program has their film production degree. So I applied for that, and I that time I didn't really know what film production entailed. I just went there. Yeah.
That's so crazy. I mean, that's late in May.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think I like how you said, you finally had that aha moment because I think so often that's very telling, right? In regards to
Mhm.
what would you do if money wasn't an option? Like if money was no object, what would you do? And honestly, this is what I would do. I would make it bigger. I would travel
Mhm.
more. I would do like so I get to do it in some aspect. Maybe not as large and grandiose as I would eventually want, but I love talking to people. I love getting to know people. I love hearing people's stories. Like I'm just so like fascinated with people. Um and unfortunately I think some people do it like they don't have that conversation with themselves. The theme of this year is it's never too late,
Yeah.
right? And I just say, it may not look like you thought it would look when you're a kid, but it's never too late. So even in that moment, you're probably thinking, oh, great. But you figured out a way to do it. And it wasn't too late because you got into the program
Yeah.
and eventually you are able to do a student exchange program to go to New York. Had you been to New York before then?
I had on vacation for a few days. I've been there I think a couple of times, like two or three times on really short trips. Yeah, so and I love New York. I've always said because one of my favorite movies growing up it's Home Alone 2, the one where he gets
Yeah.
lost in New York. And it was always my dream to go to New York by myself. Yeah, and spend more time there.
Yes. No, I do love New York. I always said if I would have moved to New York instead of Dallas, I would have
Hmm.
probably never moved back to California because I really, but now I'm like, oof, I love New York, but I've gone at least for a week each year for the last couple years. I will go. I am going to go again this year,
Hmm.
but I get to. I'm not gonna lie. I love my relaxed life in San Diego. I'm a San Diego girl through and through. I can't. I'm a wimp too. I am a wimpy Californian. Not just a wimpy Californian. I am a wimpy San Diegan. We are spoiled with our weather. It gets below 60. It gets to 60 degrees, and we're like freezing our buns off.
Yeah, I've always heard great things about San Diego. I want to visit
Well,
one day
let
because
me
everyone
know.
I speak to, it's like their favorite California city.
Oh yeah, I love it here. I'm
Yeah.
so fortunate that I got to grow up in San Diego County and I
Hmm.
love it here. And I don't ever want to live anywhere else, but I want to explore
Of course.
everywhere. When you're in NYU, because obviously NYU has a pretty robust theater program, right?
Yeah.
Is the Tisch School of the Arts part of NYU?
Yes, that's their big acting and film school.
Okay. See,
I
girl,
think
I know
it's
a
the
little
art school.
bit.
Yeah.
I remember I remember lots of little things. So did
Yeah.
you have a chance to study there while you were doing that?
Yeah, so I took I think two classes there. I took an acting for the camera class and a directing the actors class. Yeah, and it was really hard to get classes at Tisch. I remember because I was studying film, so I thought, okay, I'm obviously gonna take all the film classes I want. But then they were like, "Oh no, you student exchange programs can't take the classes here." I was like, wait,
That's the whole point.
what classes am I gonna take? And then they told me, oh, you have to wait until electives open up and see if there's space for you. So those were the two classes that had spaces available for me. Because I wanted to take the bigger film classes, the ones that were required for my degree, and I wasn't able to.
Oh
Yeah.
man. That must have been I would have been so disappointed because you're like, I'm coming here for this.
Yeah. It was frustrating because it I still decided to go for the opportunity, but it delayed my graduation because I couldn't
Mm.
take the class I needed that semester, and I had to wait the other semester to then take the other one I needed because I couldn't take them at the same time. So yeah, it delayed my
Your graduation.
not my graduation. I think I was still gonna graduate, but I was supposed to finish in December, and then I had to wait until the other May to finish. Yeah.
So how long were you in New York for during that time?
A semester. So from January till May.
So were you able to explore and do the things that you wanted? Did you get
Yes,
lost in New York, Lorena?
I did every day. I just went, I was spoiled because I was staying at the NYU dorms and it was right in the middle, right there, a
By
20.
Washington Square?
Yes, so I could walk everywhere and I was right in the middle of everything. So every day when I was free, I just walked and walked and walked and I
Uh,
explored the city.
Honestly, the first time I went and I realized like that NYU was right there, literally like
Hmm.
you walk out and Washington Square is right there, all these things are
Yeah.
right there. And I was like, man, my parents are so lucky I never visited here, or else I would have been like,
Yeah.
that's where I'm going to college.
Yeah, I wanted to transfer there, but it was so much more expensive than my school here, and I was gonna have so much student debt for just 1 year that
Mhm.
I had left of classes. So it's not worth it. I'm just gonna go back, finish, and then move back to New York.
But then, yeah, I was about to say, then you graduated and then you did go back, right, to go
Yes,
to the William Esper Studio. So you lived
yes.
there for another 2 years doing that. So obviously you weren't able to get some of those classes you were at Tisch, but you got some exposure. But tell like William Esper, like I said, I had heard of it. I don't know where I'd heard of
Hmm.
William Esper Studio. Girl. Again, things just fall in and fall out at random times.
Yeah.
Um, so where you go, like what when you go to a studio like that to study acting, what does
Mhm.
that entail? How intense is that? Like I don't know. I have no clue.
Okay, so I was really afraid before starting because everyone in Puerto Rico was warning me about, oh, New York, they're they're very hardcore. They're gonna destroy you. They're so critical. It's really tough. So I was really afraid because I didn't really have that much acting experience. That last year in Puerto Rico, I did take basic acting classes and I did a short film plus my film classes. So but I still didn't feel like I was properly trained in acting, and a lot of the kids studying acting in New York have been acting since they were kids. So I was really afraid, really nervous. And when I get there, everyone's so nice and so kind. But I think I was nervous for the whole 2 years there. I didn't feel like I deserved to be there because a lot of people there already had a lot of experience. They came from drama high schools that were well known for their drama programs, and I was just
Like the
starting.
Fame High School.
Yeah, but in other cities, or they already had experience or had BFAs and just wanted to continue taking more acting classes. So yeah, I still didn't feel like I belonged there, but it was just me in my head because everyone was so kind. And I've heard stories of other drama schools. So I got lucky with the one I picked.
Really? Like what?
Yeah.
Like people are just like cutthroat?
Yeah. In other ones, but the at least I got so lucky with the one I went to.
So like when you go, because is it like I mean, I don't, is it like a traditional school or do you take workshops? Like, how does that work? Because I'm so, like, I see in my head, I probably envisioning something totally different. Like, is it like is it a school or is it just a school or is it just like, yeah, I don't know.
It's a studio. It's not a university. It's not school or
Like a school of acting.
yeah, it is a school of acting, and that's the only thing that you can study there.
Mhm.
There's no other um like other subjects that you study there. It's just you can either pick just to take the acting courses, or you can add other courses like voice and speech, movement,
What was your
script and
favorite thing that you did?
I the first because I started doing a summer intensive and then I continue for the 2 years. So I took a movement class, and that's what my favorite class to take. I did
Okay,
take
is movement like when you're doing like
it's
stuff
like
like
to the basic movements. They play you music and you let loose, and it helps you get in your body, get out of your head to follow your impulses. The more advanced movement classes, they help you like figure out the characters' movements, like if they're from another period, how would they move and all of that. But yeah, the ones I've taken have been all about letting go.
like
And
those little things at the car dealerships and stuff. That's what.
yeah, it's like that. Literally. That's how we look. That's how like I try not to look because they're always in dance studios and they have mirrors, so I always try to not look in the mirror because everyone
I would
just looks
imagine you start cracking
close.
up.
Yeah.
And I let
Yeah.
during that time because I would have like you have to. You're there. You're supporting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You are auditioning while you're doing these things, and then you're like you said, like those traditional things that you hear the actors do: waitress, receptionist, coat check, whatever. And then obviously COVID, boom, stops everything.
Yep.
And I'm sure just like everybody felt like, what are we going to do? Life has stopped. I don't know what we're going to do. And for somebody like, I mean, a lot of us, I wasn't, I fortunately had a position where I could work remotely because we worked remotely
Mm-hmm.
even prior to the pandemic. So uh, it was a change for me in the fact that I didn't really get to see anybody. Me and my dog went on a whole lot of walks. That's for sure. We were, and it was really eerie. But when you're doing something like acting, where you do have to be around people, you have to feed off people, and I am that way. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of, if I didn't have my dog, I would have. Which who is since we had to put him down a couple months
Oh,
ago.
I'm
My
so
my baby
sorry.
too. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
It was very, very hard.
it
But he
is
kept
really
me
hard.
going. He kept me going
Yeah.
through all of that. And but I had to go where even if people like even at the beach, people were staying their distance. But
Mm-hmm.
uh I am an empath and I'm super extroverted. So that's kind almost like, okay, I have to be careful
Yeah.
of who's around me because I don't want to feel any negative energy,
Mm-hmm.
but I still need to be around people so I can have my sanity, right?
Yeah.
But for acting, like everything you do, you are constantly around people.
Yeah.
And
One
then
of the
even the jobs that you were doing as a waitress, receptionist, coat check, like those all involve being around people. And that changes for you in an instant, you and millions of people, right? But for
mm-hmm.
you, like it must have been a concern of how, okay, crap, how am I gonna pay my rent? How am I gonna pay my bills? Because all of your jobs have stopped.
Yeah, so thankfully at that point I wasn't working as a waitress anymore. So that was I was working as a receptionist at that point and at a dance school, and the dance school had to close. So I was able to get the unemployment check. So
Ugh.
that's how I was paying my bills during that time. Um but yeah, it I had my two roommates at that time, and it was just us, and the whole city was empty. It was like a ghost town. It was crazy. And I remember at first everyone was afraid to just go for walks because we didn't really know how COVID just transmitted itself
Hmm.
if it was in the air. So for a while, everyone was just afraid to even just walk outside
Oh
out of
my
fear of
God.
bumping into people.
I will say that
Yeah.
was the benefit of Sandy because we're a little bit more,
Hmm.
not as dense, but you
Yeah.
would see people like I'd be walking my dog, somebody would be walking their dog on the same side of the street, and then one of us would cross the street. So
Hmm.
you're constantly having people crossing the street because there's no cars, right? Nobody's go where are you gonna go? Nobody's going anywhere. So
Yeah.
everybody's constantly crossing the street to avoid somebody else walking their dog. Um, and so that's when you started, like everybody else, like we were talking about, started a TikTok account.
Yep. I
What
rem
like
I
yeah, share.
Yeah, I didn't really know much about TikTok at that time. I knew there was an app called TikTok, and the funny thing is that months before, it was November 2019, and I went to there was a Jonas Brothers concert in Brooklyn, and me and my roommate were like the same day, oh, let's just go. Very last minute. And opening that concert, they were um the singer that was opening welcomed to the stage a few dancers, and one of the dancer was Charlie D'Amelio, who's the
Oh
famous
yeah.
TikToker.
Uh-huh.
I had no idea who that was at that time. I had no idea what TikTok was, anything. And then fast forward to March, that I'm alone, I see people sharing, I think, TikToks on Instagram. I was like, what is this? Because I was bored. And I just opened. It took me a few days because I was like, what is TikTok exactly? Because I didn't want to lose myself to another social media platform because I knew I was gonna be scrolling the whole time. And
Girl, it
I
is
was
so hard.
yeah, I was like, I don't want to get involved with another social media thing. But I was bored, so I just opened the account and I saw people I knew doing trends. It's like, okay, let me just do it. I have nothing else to do. So at first I started doing dances, but I'm very bad at learning even a TikTok dance, like a 10-second TikTok dance. So I've at first I struggled a lot with that, and then I just started doing a lot of trending sounds, which with whatever I could relate to them. And
And
the skits came months later.
well, I love your skits, and if you don't
Thank
mind,
you.
I'm gonna kind of play audio of one of them.
Uh-oh.
Um, let's see. I want to do. I'm trying to pick. I had it, and then I accidentally got out. So trying to see which one we want to do. Okay, we're gonna do one where the okay, the no passport Costa Rica.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna play that one.
I need your passport. That's my license. Need to see your passport. You're traveling internationally. I don't need a passport to go to Costa Rica. I'm an American. You still need a passport. No, I was told I didn't. Who told you that? One of those travel TikToks that mention where Americans can travel without passports. Well, not everything you see on the internet is true. It up and it's true. It's not. Look, it's so early. If you don't live far, you have time to go back, get your passport. No, no, no. I have friends that traveled there recently and they weren't asked for their passports. Are you sure they weren't going to San Jose, California? Pretty sure. I don't know what to tell you. You work here and it's your job to know this. This is why they shouldn't hire people without a college degree. I have a college degree, not that it matters. Did you get me someone else that knows geography? Meg, she doesn't have her passport to go to Costa Rica. And you need a passport to go to Costa Rica. Wow, what type of people do they have working here? They're all stupid. Next, oh, go ahead, ignore me. Go get your passport and then you can come back here. I have the list right here of places that I don't need a passport to go to. Costa Rica is right here. Ma'am, this is Puerto Rico. Yeah, I'm flying to St. Joe's. Our ticket is to San Jose, Costa Rica. Different way of saying it. No, Puerto Rica, Costa Rica. I suggest you take a look at a map. I'm just gonna go find someone more competent. Okay, I need your passport.
And there are so many more like that. And I love it because I think we can all relate to having that person who is just unreasonable. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I can be what apparently the Latino or the Latina equivalent is a Yolanda, which is my mom's name,
Mhm.
by the way. And I could be a Yolanda. I can definitely, but
Wait,
like I
what's
have to be
a
pushed,
Yolanda?
like the Latina Karen.
Okay. I thought it was Carmen.
So
Because
I don't know. I've heard it. I've
I
heard
heard someone say it
Yolanda.
was Carmen, but yeah. Maybe it's because of it's funny because I just saw a TikTok earlier, Yolanda Saldivar,
Oh
who
yeah.
one who murdered Selena. So people are saying that they're gonna be standing outside of the prison when she gets released next year. So that's
Oh.
just thought about.
It's so funny because my mom does not like her name. And I was like, so my mom, she's like, name a famous Yolanda. And my sister goes, Yolanda who killed Selena. So my mom's like, oh, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's not who I want to be associated with. But I have to be pushed. Like to get to that point, right? It has to be
Hmm.
like because I've worked in customer service. I
Yeah.
always think like if you everybody should have to work as a server, everybody should have to work in retail,
Even if it's just
everybody
one day.
just
That's what I
one
say. Just
day,
one day.
one
Do
day
it.
or be a server, one day work in retail,
Yeah.
one day work in customer service. And I've done all of those things.
Yeah.
So, and my fiance, he works in the service industry as well. So, we definitely try and give people the benefit of the doubt, right?
Hmm.
I think there was one time we actually did go to one place here in San Diego that it's more like visual. The service was horrible.
Yeah.
And he never not gives it. He always like really gives minimum 20%. Normally it's more, right? Um, normally it's like 30% that he gives.
Wow.
And uh this time like the service was so bad
Wow.
that actually I'll say the place because we
So no
needed
one
for
goes there.
yeah, it's called Cocomaya here in Little Italy. And it's a beautiful place. But the service was so bad and like that we didn't even leave a tip. Like that never happened. That's never happened in my life that I've not left a tip. And that's how bad the service was at Cocomaya. And
Is it a really popular place that people go
it
to?
used to be like there used to be lines, but the food is
Wow.
not that like the food is really expensive and it's not that
Worth
great.
it.
Yeah. Like I would rather go to a taco shop
And
and
have a
have
better meal.
yeah, and have a way better meal and be
Yeah.
full than go there because the food isn't that great and it's really expensive because you're paying for the ambiance. That's what you're paying
Hmm.
for.
There's a lot of places in New York that are like that. That
Yeah.
they're all Instagram famous.
Hmm.
But then when you go there, I mean they might not be bad, but it's not worth it. They're really expensive and the food is average.
Yeah, I will say I'm very fortunate when I go, I stay with friends and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I haven't, but last time I was there, my friends were supposed to, I still have not had Dominican food.
Where in New York?
Yeah. And they're from both of them are Dominican and they were supposed to take me. I was like,
Yeah.
girls, take me. I
A
want some
really
Dominican
authentic
food.
place.
And they're like, yes, yes. And but we were so busy because I was, so busy with getting stuff ready for the podcast event
Hmm.
that I was having there that we didn't. And like the day before I was leaving, I was like, we didn't even go to Dominican food. But I'll be
No.
like I said, I'll be back this year.
Next
So
time. Next time.
yes. And I'll let you
Yeah.
know.
If I'm there. Because
If you're there,
I'm
if you're
always
not
all over
traveling,
the place.
if you're not in London, if you're not in Puerto Rico, if you're not
You
somewhere,
let me know.
I'll let you know.
Yes.
Um, but I think so many people can relate to, and obviously you do like, and you've said you read him, and sometimes you probably do an over exaggeration of
Hmm.
things. But what was the thing that made you decide to start doing those types of skits?
Which one? The
No, just
airport
and yeah,
ones
like
in
because
general?
you did a whole series of airport ones.
Yeah. So
So what was the first skit you did? Do you remember?
it was I think I did one in 2020, but it had I think it had a sound problem, so I deleted it, but it was about thrift stores in Brooklyn, how a lot of them, like you try to sell they're asking for shorts and you try to sell
Wait, I think I saw that one.
your shorts. I did recreate it with
Oh, okay.
better quality. Um, but that's the first one I filmed. And because sometimes you go there, you want to sell your clothes. Let's say they're asking for jeans and you have a good quality jeans, but you don't like them anymore, so you want to sell them. And they're like, oh no, we're actually looking for jeans from Levi's from 1995. So they can be really specific. I think that was the first skit I did. But the first one I did that stayed, oh my God, I do you remember it was 2020? Remember when during the campaign that
Oh,
Giuliani went to
with
that
the Four
um
Seasons
the
landscaping?
Four Season landscaping. So I did one doing like that place the secretary or the receptionist answering the phone and them telling her, "Oh, is this the Four Seasons? We want to do like a campaign there." And she was like, "Why?" But yeah, whatever. She was very the character I did was very like, "I don't really care." So she just booked them. So that was my first, I think that was my first one. I don't know if I did one before. But that was
Did
one of the
that
first
start
ones that
getting,
got a lot of
I was
that
about to
started getting more
say,
views. Yeah.
yeah.
I might have done one before a few before, but that was the one that okay, this is getting because it was like October 2020. That one started to get more views. I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing these, start doing more skits.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's so fun. No, I think I remember kind of seeing because I went through like I was
Mhm.
so like I loved your skit so much that I like went to your page
Oh,
and
thank
then started like going through all of them because I thought they were so funny.
thank you.
Do you think that you're like doing these skits has kind of helped your acting?
Um, I don't know. 'Cause like you were saying earlier, acting is so much about other people. And
Mhm.
it's a lot one of the like the not quote the if when acting teachers tell you the definitions of acting,
Mhm.
one of them is reacting to the other person. So it's like I don't have anyone to react to. But it's like when you're doing a monologue, you don't really have anyone to react to, so you have to imagine whoever you're speaking to or you're speaking to the audience or whatever. But since I'm doing skits that include two characters or more, then in actual acting, I would have another person acting with me, and I would be able to react to the other
So you're
person.
right now you're having to react to yourself.
Yeah, not even myself, just looking into having the phone in front of me, and I'm there like watching myself sometimes. So I don't, I'm not really I'm trying to react to whatever's happening, and sometimes I feel like it's forced. Whether if I'm acting with another person, it feels more natural and it's easier, and I feel like I act better if I'm acting. I'm actually acting if I have another person with me. So I'm not. It does. I don't know if it's helping me. It helps me stay creative and expressing myself, but acting, I'm
But you
not sure.
also have to like make those reactions to nothing, right? That's almost
Yeah.
it's almost like working with the group, like just like a green screen, right? With nothing there, but like a bag that has to be a monster, right?
Mhm.
They're not reacting to anything. They're just
Yeah.
reacting to this. So
It's like voice acting too. Because in voice acting, a lot of the times the actors are by themselves in a studio.
see, there you
So I
go. We
imagine it
got
might
you.
be something like that. Yeah.
What was because you were talking about your off, I like you put four offs,
It was
off
very, very
Broadway.
off.
What was your first like? Was there because I'm sure with every job because acting is really hard. So I'm just gonna say
Mhm.
like to go into that, it is first of all, it's an art that I think people just sometimes don't realize. Like there's an art to acting,
Yeah.
but also like being a Latina and having certain ways and having like we know that there's the representation can be a lot better. We
Mm-hmm.
actually and we I actually had a the very first live podcast event we had last year was in LA talking about representation in media. And we know that, you know, 20% over 20% of ticket sales, movie ticket sales are bought by the Latino community, yet like 2%,
Yes.
we have like 2% representation. So first of all, I'm just going to say for myself, like, thank you for just working on your craft and doing what you're doing
Oh,
because
thank
if
you.
nobody ever tells you what you're doing is really important. And if you don't ever see it, like somebody's looking at you going, I can't, I want to be like her and pursue my dreams. I want to be like her. Like, so just know that, right? Like, people appreciate seeing somebody who is Puerto Rican, who is Latina, who is working towards their dreams. We need to continue to uplift and praise each other for those things.
Oh,
So I want to
thank you.
make
That
sure I
means a
say that.
lot. So I really, so a lot of, I don't really think about that when I'm doing my skits because I'm always thinking about the representation in the movies, but I never think about my little skits in that way. So
I
thank
mean,
you.
it's important to hear somebody who has a little bit of an accent, right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
just because, like, I only have apparently I have an accent when I say certain things, and when I'm in New York, everybody thinks I'm from New York. They always think I get
Really?
Puerto
That's
I
cool.
I actually think I get Puerto Rican before anything. I'm Mexican American, but everybody
Mm-hmm.
always thinks I'm Puerto Rican, even here in California. But I think that, like, I love how Salma Hayek did not get rid of her accent.
Yeah.
She could have taken, I love how Sofia Vergara did not get rid of her accent. They could have gone to dialect coaches. They could have done that. And they didn't because it's part of who they are and it's part of their, like where they came from. And so hearing that, and even though you're doing different emphasis and different things with your voice a little bit, still having that accent it's rad. I think it's so awesome that you continue, do that. Please don't ever lose your accent, please.
Oh, yeah. The thing is that it's sometimes it comes and goes because people tell me like, where's your accent? So it depends on
Oh,
because
the first time I
here.
heard you, I knew you were Latina.
Oh yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
I knew I wasn't. I was like, and then a couple of them, I'm like, she's Puerto Rican. I already know. Like, I knew after watching a couple of videos that you're Puerto Rican. And then I don't even remember at what point I don't know, but I knew that. But I already instantly the first video I knew you're Latina.
Yeah, no, a lot of people don't believe I'm Puerto Rican. When I moved to New York, a lot of people question, even other Puerto Ricans that grew up there.
That grew up
They
in
were
Puerto
like
Rico or grew up in New York.
Puerto Ricans that grew up in New York that I worked with, they didn't believe me. And they were like, "But wait, are your parents from there? Because you look Eastern European, or even they were like, or are you Irish? Because a lot of I mean, I do have a little bit of Irish ancestry, but that's another story. But yeah, they didn't believe that I actually grew up in Puerto Rico, and even if I had an accent, they were like, oh, they didn't believe that I speak Spanish.
Okay. Why do we do this to each other? Well, I want to talk like the last thing I want to kind of talk to because you've doing like you've had this opportunity because you've built this community, which it is a community
Mm-hmm.
because when you do this and people are getting enjoyment of that. First of all, have you gotten any like crazy hate people on your
Yeah, there's this one person that uses, I think, a lot of anonymous accounts, but I don't know if it's a he or she or this. I realized it was the same person because it they wrote the same thing in a lot of the videos, and it all had to do with my diction. And it was always like, if you really want to make it into the acting world, you need speech classes. But it was in a lot of different videos, and they were like, "Oh, you say you want to win an Oscar. you need to work on your speech. And there was a point where I thought, is this someone I know? Because they started saying, oh, because they started writing, oh, you dream around about acting. Because that has to be someone I know that has heard me talk about, oh, I dream about winning an Oscar and all of that. So, and it was like the same person with different accounts.
Girl, I've dreamt about winning an Oscar. I don't even act.
Yeah,
Like,
everyone
yeah,
just
with you.
it's like everyone's fantasy. But I every time I clicked on that account, it was like one follower
Mhm.
and no picture, but the same comment in a lot of videos.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, girl, once this comes out, and I'm gonna just take that part that I said and send it to you so you can remind yourself
Thank you.
of what you're doing, right? Like it's worth it. Truly, it's worth it. Um,
Thank you. Yeah, I really want to try to learn different accents because for playing characters, I want to be able to play different types of people.
right.
Yeah, but I think my voice comes and goes. I really have, it depends on if I'm tired, if I've been speaking English all day, then I'm gonna sound different if I've been speaking Spanish all day. So it depends.
Yeah. Um, so obviously now you're being able to monetize you're in this TikTok thing, but that's not really what I want to talk about. I
Mhm.
want to talk about how freaking awesome it is that you took this course at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. How
Yeah.
did that come about? Like that is so awesome. That's super prestigious.
Yeah, so it was very last minute. Um, it was in early October. I was here in Puerto Rico trying to figure out what was gonna be my next move, and the actor strike was still going on at that point. And my plan was to go back to New York in October, but then I was like, wait, we still have the strike. They still haven't reached a deal. I miss acting a lot. And earlier this year, I was traveling for a bit. I spent some time in Spain, so went to Portugal, France. But I've been to London before for a shorter amount of time. And I've always loved London. And I grew up watching Harry Potter, and it's like one of my favorite cities that I've only spent a few days in before. So, and I've always heard about RADA, the school, how it's one of the best schools. A lot of the actors I admire went there. So I started Googling short acting courses. And that course was starting on October 31st. So this was a few weeks before. And I applied. And then they told me that the the class that was fully in person was full and that I was waitlisted. And then I asked them, but is there another option? They told me you could take some classes online, other classes in person. And I decided to do that. And I just booked the ticket, an Airbnb, and just flew there days before.
So did has what you've been doing on TikTok allowed you to do that?
Yes. Yeah, that's the reason I was able to because I work from my phone making videos. So that's how I've been able to travel and was able to just pack my bags and go. Because if I had an actual job to go to that I needed to go to, then I wasn't going to be able to.
Girl, I am so
Yeah.
excited for you. I can't wait
Thank
to see
you.
what you do next. Seriously, I love that you have been able to find a way to continue like to get something creative and silly out there, but also that is able to allow you to afford you to continue to follow your dreams. I love
Thank you
that for
so
you.
much.
I want that more for everybody, right? That we're
Yeah.
able to like follow that. I always allow people, if there's something I didn't ask or if there's something you want to add, please do so now because I want to make sure you're able to share everything that you want to share.
Oh my God. I don't just ask me anything. You can ask me anything. I have no idea.
What's next? What's next for Lorena?
So good question, because I loved London so much, and I was actually thinking of going back there and spending more time there. So that's and I also love Spain, and they also have a good film industry. So that's been my dilemma for the past couple of weeks of should I go back to New York right now and settle there, or should I just spend more time in London, even though I still don't have a visa to work there, or go to Spain? So that's been my dilemma for the past few weeks of which place do I want to be in?
That's a
Because I
good
do,
dilemma to have.
yeah, yeah. It's a privilege to have this dilemma. It's not like oh, poor little, yeah, poor little me.
No, not
But
at all.
yeah,
I love
I've
that.
been that's a because yeah, I have to go back to I am going to New York soon. I was just waiting on the winter storms to stop a bit because I've been tracking them. But I don't have an apartment right now because I left my apartment a year ago when I came to Puerto Rico, and so yeah, my stuff is in a storage in New York. So yeah, that's I'm thinking where am I gonna go right now?
Wherever you land, girl, I got your back. I support
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. I
Yes.
have to go there to San Diego.
Yes, let me
Yeah.
know. TikTok, your Lorena Zoe JT, Instagram, your Lorena Zoe. We will make sure that we put the links in the show notes. But Lorena, thank you. So how okay,
No,
you feel
thank
okay? This was
you.
your first podcast. How you feel?
Yeah. I mean, I was nervous, but it's been great. It's really fun.
Good.
And
Good.
I
See?
drinking wine. Not every podcast has wine.
I
I
mean,
love the name too.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, that's why I say I always get excited for somebody who's never been on a podcast because I feel, you know, I am all about amplifying and uplifting. I don't want to be like a gotcha person. Look, we're here to support each other. There are so many other avenues where people can be
Mm,
right. This is not one of those places. So hopefully you had a good time and hopefully, this gives you
I
a good
did.
taste of being on a podcast. And mi gente, until next time.
Thank you. I love this.
Hola, mi gente. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos.